Welcome to the AI in Procurement podcast. I'm your host, Srijan Kumar, the CEO of Lighthouz AI. I'm excited to take you all on a journey with me as I talk to world leaders in procurement about how AI, generative AI, and agentic AI are transforming procurement, and how organizations and leaders like yourself can make the most out of this revolutionary technology. In today's episode, we have a special guest with us, Arvind Swamy. He's the head of procurement and strategic sourcing at Tegna. He has held procurement leadership positions at a long list of leading companies: Equifax, Ford, NCR, Exide, Encompass, Alexander Proudfoot, and First Data Corp. This podcast is hosted by Lighthouz AI. Lighthouz is a Y Combinator-backed startup building AI agents for procurement excellence. I had a fantastic time speaking with Arvind, and I hope you all enjoy this episode. Arvind, so excited to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks, Srijan. Appreciate the intro.
Great. Let's kick things off. I'd love for you to tell us how you got started in procurement. What excited you?
Yeah, so I have always been keen to understand the value stream in business and how companies add value in their value chain, and how they make money in terms of selling and delivering to customers. So I got engaged in supply chain in the automotive world, and I was managing full vehicle programs with suppliers. So that's how I got started. And eventually, the whole supply chain function morphed into sourcing and procurement and procure-to-pay automation, etc. So I've delved into all those areas as those opportunities became available.
Amazing. So you have been in this space for a long time. What keeps you excited about the future of procurement, sourcing, and supply chain?
Yeah, so this area of procurement, sourcing, and supply chain has tremendous areas where improvement and enhancements are possible. For instance, 10, 15 years ago, in order to conduct a market scan for a certain category which you're buying in, you would have to physically go through journals and websites in order to conduct the market scan. Today, the same market scan, you can use generative AI and give a series of very targeted prompts where it will come back and deliver to you more or less what you're looking for. And further, you can fine tune it to be exactly what you need. So that is the big advantage. And another area where you could use AI and generative AI is to use it for supplier communications. Like, for instance, you needed to draft letters to inform suppliers of a certain happening, like we're going through a snowstorm today, so we're not going to take deliveries, etc. So it can speed up that communication process and make sure nothing is left out, and it can go out to multiple suppliers in the supply base at the same time. So it can leverage the thought process that is going on inside the company and create communication to suppliers, so they're on board and they understand what's happening, so they can react in time or even ahead of time.
Amazing. So I guess the impact of all of this, couple of examples that you gave around generative AI and AI being used, is that it would increase supply chain resilience and improve visibility into the supply chain across the board. And I would add on to what you said, based on our experiences building AI agents for procure-to-pay, that you can take it even further, not just having them draft these emails, but AI agents can proactively and autonomously do a lot of this supplier communication regarding, let's say, overdue email, overdue orders, future orders and reminders for suppliers, and even more aspects that I'm sure we'll get into in this particular podcast. So
yeah, absolutely.
So in your experiences, in the recent years, how have this digital transformation, analytics of data, as well as AI and now generative AI and AI agents, how have they changed these practices at the companies that you have worked at, or broadly, what impact have you seen?
So before AI, it was more of machine learning and portal-based communication and transactions with the suppliers. That really changed the whole ERP-based. The send a PO, hope the supplier gets it, and he delivers on time, etc. So from that to getting a confirmation from a supplier that they are indeed going to fulfill your order, that was an improvement. Well, today it can be further to what you alluded to in terms of sharing a forecast or sharing future needs and getting to understand where the supplier is placed in terms of capability and capacity, and getting that feedback and incorporating that into your forecast to see how your deliverables to your customers will either be met or you have to react and consider other changes in order to meet your commitments. So certainly, it's been a long way since it used to be done through EDI and ERP, and today it's evolving into a much more, machine managed, but still disruptions and challenges will still have to be managed by humans.
Of course. Yeah. So I think some of the other guests that we have had on the podcast have had very similar observations. And one thing that's, I believe, exciting broadly right now in the procurement world is how the role of procurement professionals is going to change or evolve rather and improve as AI, generative AI, and specifically AI agents become much more ingrained into the day-to-day work, where you can kind of offload some of these tasks to these AI agents and you become a manager to these AI agents. What's your reaction to that? Are you seeing how far ahead into the future do we have that have those capabilities widely useful?
I would say it wouldn't be very far into the future. It would be maybe a couple of years to a few years at the most. And there are, like, for instance, in contract management, you could have an AI agent that looks at contract expiry, and based on the rules you set, it can set up meetings between you and the supplier and the stakeholders, so you get it kicked off. And before that, each step was a manual process. Therefore, you have to make sure you check calendars, you have to make sure you ask people if they're free, etc., etc. So it would take a 2-day cycle, whereas an AI agent can do that, do all those steps, in less than a half hour or so.
Amazing. Yeah, that's such a great example. So you are forecasting that AI agents for procure to pay will become readily available for use for various different use cases pretty much in the next couple of years.
Yeah, sure. So I look at it as two different processes, right? Source to contract is one process and procure to pay is the next process. Procure to pay is more tactical and source to contract is more long-term strategic. Mm-hmm. And what we're also seeing is a lot of the services that we used to buy, they're morely adjoining professional services that can be transformed into AI engines. And therefore, what is happening is it's not enough that you just go negotiate with your current supplier. We sourcing professionals, we have to have an eye on the emerging technologies and the emerging improvements in what AI and ML and those fields are delivering. So you make the right choice at the right time. Otherwise, you might be left behind when compared to your competition.
Absolutely. That's such an important point, Arvind, that you make over here. In your experience, where have you seen, can you share some examples where you have seen AI already making an improvement and impact on sourcing and procurement teams?
Yeah, so specifically, it depends on which categories, right? So suppose, you have, you're generating APIs for your company to work with your customer systems, etc. Now, you could have generative AI write the code for those APIs. You give them examples and you give them the constraints, the requirements of your customer systems. You could have a tailored API generated through an AI engine. Then likewise on the marketing front, you can articulate what the value proposition of a company or a product is, and the AI agent can generate collateral. It could be brochures, it could be advertisements, etc. So, we're seeing it in many fields. It's not very restrictive. As you can imagine, it's how you use. It's a tool, and it depends on how you use and how widely you apply it.
Absolutely. That's an important point to keep in mind, that even though some of these tools have been available for a very long time, not every company and every organization is using it at the same speed or same adoption rate, right? So there's always a change management aspect that comes in place whenever there's a new technology adoption, and the adoption curve is always distinct for each individual, even within a company. So as companies start to think about leveraging these latest technologies of AI and AI agents and generative AI in their sourcing and procurement processes, what challenges do you envision companies facing? And do you have any tips for the practitioners who are listening, how they can overcome some of these challenges?
Yeah, so these functions, procurement and sourcing, etc., they're never staffed to the hilt. They're always short-staffed. So some of the challenges that these procurement folks face is ability to manage their workload. And with AI, ML, etc., if they outsource or delegate some parts of the repetitive workload to AI agent, they can be more efficient and they can be more productive. They could deliver almost 2x their productivity just by partnering with AI agents for certain tasks that are recurring and may not be so repetitive, but still to some extent repetitive.
Right. And any that's such a great example, Arvind. Some of the use cases of AI agents are exactly what you have said, automating the repetitive tasks and then augmenting the existing workforce to do things that they are not able to do. For example, some of the companies that we have been fortunate to work with, our AI agents are automating these supplier communications regarding overdue emails and past and upcoming overdue shipments and orders and upcoming shipments and orders. That's one use case where traditionally you would need to go get an open order report, go through it line by line, and then draft the email and send it. All of those fully automated via AI agents saves such a huge amount of time for the end users, specifically the bigger the organization is. You had previously mentioned about contract negotiations and compliance. What use cases have you seen where AI agents and generative AI and AI, apart from the one that you have already mentioned, can be greatly useful for companies?
Yeah, certainly. So in the contracting space, right, which includes the negotiation space, right, clearly you have to negotiate in good faith, and you have to make sure that you get the right price at the right deliverables, etc. So it is important to be realistic in these negotiations. In these negotiations, so we need to understand what we are trying to do, and how we can use AI. For instance, if you set the constraints and deliver the right kind of prompts, an AI engine could deliver a negotiation strategy for a certain contract engagement, right? Now, and that negotiation set, the advantage of that is if you sat down to write that same thing, you might miss a couple, or you might not have thought through a few of those in detail. Therefore, it is important to understand that an AI agent can be more thorough, where things don't fall through the cracks, that a human mind cannot envelop every sphere or every angle of thinking, whereas an AI agent could do that. Alternatively, if you're running into a tight situation, you need to develop contractual clauses, SLAs, KPIs, etc. AI agents, given the right constraints and the prompts, they can deliver those APIs to you directly. right? So you can use those KPIs in contracts, and also make sure that you could have governance around those, where it is automatically collecting data on how to measure those KPIs and creating a dashboard on how the contract is being fulfilled.
These are such great observations, Arvind. I would take it a step further. And during one thing that has come up often with some of our customers is how once these contracts are created and negotiated, you would put like negotiated rates and discounts and rebates on them. Nope, it's like for a larger company, it's impossible for you to keep track of all of these. But now with AI agents, you can actually track whether when you are doing your procurement and invoice and paying invoices, whether all these are validated, whether all these are honored or not. And if not, even take it a step further, have the AI agent get it corrected from the supplier if the invoices doesn't take slab pricing and other details into account. Those are things that our customers already are using, and there's so much ROI for some of these capabilities that AI agents augment. I'd love to hear your reactions to some of the fear that people have that AI or AI agents are going to take their jobs. What's your reaction to that, specifically in the sourcing procurement context?
I would say AI agents will enhance the jobs and not take away. It could impact some of the repetitive tasks, let's say of creating POs, like you're saying, checking delivery status and governance to contract and contract compliance. Those kinds of manual efforts may be eliminated, but that is where these agents can create the work to be more interesting, where you are basically using the agent to understand what actually happened, and then using the humans to control how you solve for those problems and how you deal with the supplier in terms of if the deliveries are not being met, or if the specs are not being met, or the KPIs are met under what you're expecting. So.
Yeah, that's an amazing way to look at it. So if I were to rephrase, what you're saying is the AI agents can do some of the tactical repetitive work, while the humans can do more strategic and more future looking, more important work.
Yeah, absolutely. You go up the value chain where the humans are doing work that drive more value in terms of outcomes, business outcomes, right?
More bang for buck, yeah. So with this transformation coming already and being more mainstream in a couple of years, how can companies best prepare?
Companies can best prepare by understanding their pain points, number one. Number two, the repetitive tasks and opportunity areas where, if a human has to take 7 steps to accomplish that thing and the human is doing it repeatedly, then they have to ask themselves, okay, it's just a series of steps. How can I get a machine to do it? So it takes a critical eye to identify those things and arrive at opportunity areas, so to speak, where you can automate or even outsource some of the work to an AI agent.
That's amazing. Follow-up question on that? Do you envision the existing procurement function and sourcing functions to be able to do this by themselves, or do you feel that requires cross-functional collaboration with other units within the organization?
It does require cross-functional collaboration. Procurement is a cross-functional team sport, but so it requires a cross-functional collaboration because procurement does not make up the requirements on their own. The requirements are made up by what the business needs to deliver, and therefore, it is a cross-functional thing. And likewise, on the other end, where technology meets procurement or is assisting procurement, procurement will need to collaborate with the people who are creating these agents in order to automate some of the processes and repetitive tasks.
Great points. And I believe some companies will end up building some of these AI agents for automating repetitive tasks and value add internally, while others will end up taking external services.
Absolutely.
Great. We are coming towards the end. I want to thank you, Arvind, so much for joining the podcast. you made excellent points, and we look forward to how in the next couple of years AI agents will become teammates or co-pilots for sourcing and procurement professionals.
Oh, absolutely. I'm excited to hear more about it.
Awesome. Amazing. Thanks so much, Arvind. And to the listeners, see you in the next episode.
Yeah. Thank you, Srijan. Appreciate it.